Comes a heat wave, hurry to the shore. Comes you can hide behind the door. Comes love, nothing can be done. Comes the you could quarantine a room. Comes see, you can chase in the broom. Comes love, nothing can be done. Comes depression, another break. Comes love, nothing can be done. Comes love, nothing can be done. Inspiration, I wanna be loved, starting tonight, instead of merely holding conversation. Baby, hold me tight. I wanna be loved, I crave affection.
So good morning, everybody. Please take your seats. We're gonna begin in 1 minute. We can have also more light in the room, if possible, because I cannot see you very well, I must say. I'm all in the light, but you are in the dark. Yes, I think it's better. Thank you. All right, I think we can start this meeting, and I call the meeting of the General Committee on Democracy, Human Rights and Humanitarian Question to order. So I'll give you some general information. The election of the committee officers for the 22nd annual session of the Assembly will take place during the committee's final session, which will be on Sunday. And the nominations for candidates for election should be handed into the table office here no later than the start of that session, which is currently scheduled for 9 a.m. on Sunday morning. Before we begin, I would kindly ask you that anybody who's speaking with the written text, please to provide it to the Secretariat. And this will help the interpreters to make our meeting more productive and efficient. Also, I would kindly ask the colleagues to switch off your mobile phone while you're in the committee, and especially if you're going to speak, because the signal of the mobiles is going to interfere with the equipment and will make the work of the interpreters more difficult. This session begins now and will end at 11 a.m. As for the agenda, the committee is scheduled to have 4 meetings during this session, and our draft agenda for today has been circulated. The agenda starts with the follow-up report on the work of the committee, which will be presented by the Vice Chair, Mr. Alain Nieri from France. This committee has been tasked by the Standing Committee to debate and consider 6 supplementary items covering the following issues: protecting vulnerable populations from human trafficking, who has been sponsored by Mr. Chris Smith from the USA. The question of Belarus, sponsored by Mr. Tony Lloyd from the UK. Addressing racism and xenophobia affecting people of African descent in the OSCE region, sponsored by Miss Kathleen Ferrier from the Netherlands. The supplementary item on extraordinary rendition investigations, sponsored by Mr. Tony Lloyd from the UK, and improving election observation in the OSCE participating states, sponsored by Mr. Kovalev from the Russian Federation. And then the supplementary item on transnational fugitive offenders, sponsored by Mr. Mikkelsen from Norway. 19 amendments have been proposed to these supplementary items, and the committee will start to consider these supplementary items straight after the presentation on the follow-up report. And the reason for this is that, as you can see, our rapporteur, Mr. Koshkun Chorus, is not yet here. He will arrive this evening, so we will do his report that you have seen has been circulated to all of you tomorrow in the morning session. So I propose that the draft agenda for this afternoon meeting be adopted. Are there any objections? No? Thank you. So the agenda is adopted. So I also remind that delegates who wish to speak in the debates on the draft resolutions, they have to give their names to the committee secretary as early in each debate as possible in order to make our work more smooth. So now we start with the follow-up report, which will be presented by the Vice Chair of our committee, Mr. Alain Nieri from France. You have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Chers collègues, il y a un an, à Belgrade, notre commission a débattu d'une grande variété de sujets, donnant ainsi une perspective globale à la déclaration de Belgrade. En tant que vice-président, je suis honoré de vous présenter aujourd'hui le suivi des recommandations que nous avions formulées. À Belgrade, nous avons adopté de nombreuses débat sur l'application de la règle du consensus -1. Je rappelle à ce sujet que la déclaration de Belgrade se prononce en faveur de cette procédure. Violation manifeste, grave et non corrigée des engagements souscrits dans le cadre de l'OSCE. J'insisterai sur quelques points seulement, et pardonnez-moi de ne pas être complet. La situation en Biélorussie n'est évidemment pas bonne, malgré nos appels en faveur du respect des principes démocratiques, en particulier la libération des prisonniers politiques. Depuis juillet, la situation est même pire, puisque plusieurs lois ont été adoptées afin de restreindre encore la liberté des ONG ou la liberté de réunion. Les pouvoirs des services de sécurité ont encore été étendus. Face à cela, notre collègue et président Matteo Mekacci a de nouveau appelé les autorités biélorusses à libérer tous les prisonniers politiques au cours de la 15e réunion sur la mise en œuvre des engagements de la dimension humaine organisée à Varsovie en septembre 2011. Il faut continuer à dénoncer la situation dans ce pays. La libération d'Andrei Sannikov en avril 2012 est certes une bonne nouvelle, mais elle n'est en aucune façon une réponse aux violations quotidiennes de droits de l'homme et des principes démocratiques. L'examen de la résolution de notre collègue Tony Lloyd sera l'occasion de revenir sur ces questions. Un autre dossier important est celui des discriminations des populations roms. Deux résolutions ont été consacrées à cette question très complexe. Une prise de conscience est perceptible au niveau de l'Union européenne, mais force est de constater aussi que les choses évoluent très lentement. À Belgrade, une autre résolution importante portait sur le trafic d'organes humains. Elle invitait en particulier toutes les parties à coopérer pleinement aux enquêtes en cours sur les trafics d'organes commis au Kosovo après 1999. À ce propos, je suis ravi qu'en décembre dernier, le 18e Conseil ministériel de l'OSCE ait adopté une déclaration faisant écho à notre résolution, appelant ainsi à combattre le trafic d'organes humains. Un autre sujet abordé à Belgrade fut celui de la coopération de notre commission avec le comité sur la dimension humaine de l'OSCE. C'est un problème interne, mais important pour l'efficacité de la famille OSCE. Je crois pouvoir dire que des progrès ont été réalisés. Notre président ainsi que notre rapporteur se sont exprimés très fortement au cours de la 15e réunion sur la mise en œuvre des engagements de la dimension humaine à Varsovie. Ces échanges directs ont été renouvelés le 5 juin dernier. Notre président Matteo Mecacci a rappelé le souhait de notre Assemblée que le mécanisme de Moscou soit utilisé en cas de situation humanitaire urgente. Sur la question de la lutte contre le racisme et la xénophobie, je tiens également à citer le très intéressant rapport présenté par Catherine McGuinness, représentante pour la présidence en cours sur les questions du racisme. Ce rapport montre la difficulté dans la région OSCE, encore aujourd'hui, à avoir des données fiables sur les crimes racistes. Enfin, la réunion du comité sur la dimension humaine le 9 mai dernier a été l'occasion d'aborder la question de la torture, qui demeure malheureusement d'une brûlante actualité. Lors de cette réunion, M. Juan Mendes, rapporteur spécial sur la torture pour les Nations Unies, a dégagé 7 problèmes structurels pouvant conduire à des pratiques de torture. Il s'agit des dysfonctionnements dans l'administration de la justice, le manque de garantie des droits pendant l'arrestation et la détention, l'admission des preuves obtenues sous la torture et leur reconnaissance, l'impunité de fait des tortionnaires, les conditions de vie effroyables dans les lieux de détention. Il ne s'agit ici que de quelques exemples illustrant le travail accompli au cours des 7 derniers mois. Je vous encourage donc à prendre le temps de lire le rapport de suivi de la 3e commission générale afin de vous informer des autres activités mises en œuvre par l'OSCE en matière de démocratie, de droits de l'homme et de questions humanitaires. En conclusion, d'une manière générale, il faut constater qu'en dépit des initiatives nombreuses prises par chacun d'entre nous et de la constance de nos positions, les situations dramatiques que nous dénonçons évoluent encore trop lentement. Aussi, ensemble, nous devons accentuer nos efforts. Merci.
Grazie Alain Neri per il suo rapporto. Credo che ha fatto una fotografia abbastanza veritiera della realtà del rispetto dei diritti umani o del non rispetto dei diritti umani e della democrazia nella nostra regione. Adesso, se ci sono commenti o se qualche collega vuole intervenire sul rapporto del nostro vicepresidente, apriamo il dibattito. Se non vi sono commenti, I will switch to English because my notes on the procedural issues are in English. I will move to the other agenda item, which is the consideration of the supplementary items. And as we discussed, we will take the supplementary items in the order in which they are set out on the agenda. And then, if we don't finish today, as it is likely, we'll consider the remaining supplementary items during our meetings tomorrow and Sunday. So, the first supplementary item on the agenda is the draft resolution on extraordinary rendition investigation sponsored by Mr. Tony Lloyd of the United Kingdom. And I call on Mr. Tony Lloyd to introduce the draft resolution. Tony, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. McCatchy. This question of extraordinary rendition is something that has prompted real concern, I think, throughout Europe and indeed in North America. When President Obama was inaugurated, one of the first things he did was to sign an executive order opposing rendition torture and establishing a task force to provide recommendations about future processes to prevent rendition torture. However, we do know that across Europe and through into Afghanistan, into the Middle East, that there are strong evidential trails that suggest members of the OSCE family were involved in this practice of unlawful transfer of prisoners, and prisoners who sometimes themselves were unlawfully detained. There was a case, Matteo, in your own country of somebody being picked up from the streets, I think, of Rome and rendered. In my own country, we know that there is a court case at the moment. As yet, we don't know the results of that court case of people being rendered to Libya and then being subject to torture in Libya. That obviously has to go through the British judicial process. In the United Kingdom, as it happens, and I welcome this, the present Prime Minister of Britain set up an official inquiry in I think, June of last year. Because of the legal cases involved, that inquiry came to a premature end. Once the court cases have been resolved, then there will be a judge-led inquiry, an official legal inquiry into Britain's own involvement in extraordinary rendition. And that's necessary at the level of my own nation. I think Poland also is having a judicial inquiry into the existence of extraordinary rendition. But what we need to say is very clearly from within the OSCE that this practice of extraordinary rendition is both clearly illegal, this is obvious. The idea that torture should be part of a process of countering terrorism is bizarre. We know that actually these allegations of rendition and of torture have of themselves served as a recruiting weapon for the terrorist, for the most serious, the jihadist movements, Al-Qaeda, etc. This is for them extraordinarily powerful when they're able to quote the abuse of basic human rights. And the abuse of basic human rights isn't simply a form of words. The abuse of basic human rights does include serious allegations of not simply illegal detention, but of torture as part of the interrogation techniques. And there can't be any doubt from anybody in this meeting of ours that the possibility of torture is in violation of Article 3 of the United Nations Convention Against Torture, signed by and accepted by every country participating in the OSCE family. So there is no sense, no suggestion that there can ever be an acceptable use of torture as a means of countering terrorism. We know that the European Parliament's reports of February 2007 suggested that there were possibly 1,245 CIA flights, which many of these to destinations where suspects could face torture. Again, the use of third parties to be the torturers is a clear violation of any nation's obligations under Article 3 of the UN Convention Against Torture. I don't propose to speak much longer, Matteo, except simply to say this, that this is still an ongoing issue. This story about extraordinary rendition is not finished. It is a United States issue. It's clear that the United States was the author of these practices. However, it was the United States acting in concert with at least some members of the OSCE beyond the US itself and further into other countries. On that basis, it's still necessary for us to keep up the political pressure for proper answers. Proper answers partly because we do need to know the truth of what took place. We need to know the truth of my own country as to the involvement of the British security services, illegal as they most certainly would be if these allegations are true. But we also do need to give a strong signal for the future that this type of activity is not something that has any role to play in the fight against terrorism. The fight against terrorism is serious. The security services in my own country include people who put their lives at risk to protect the well-being of the people of my country and more generally the people of this planet of ours. They do work of inestimable value, but that work of inestimable value can only be done within the confines of a legal base. And that legal base does insist that extraordinary rendition of itself is an unacceptable practice and an illegal practice, and that torture not simply is illegal, it goes against everything that we stand for, and in fact simply fuels the ambitions of those who would bring down the human rights and democratic values that we as an OSCE Parliamentary Assembly stand for. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation of this supplementary item. Now the debate on the draft resolution is open. So is any of the colleagues willing to take the floor on this issue? Yes, Mr. Lanieri, Vice President.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, je partage totalement le contenu et la présentation faite par notre collègue Tony Lloyd sur ce sujet. Et si vous me permettez, je crois que si l'on acceptait de telles pratiques, ça serait revenir à la loi du talion et donc revenir pratiquement au Moyen-Âge. Je rappellerai simplement ce que disait le prix Nobel de littérature français Albert Camus à propos de la peine de mort. Il disait si vous touchez un cheveu sur la tête de ma mère, ma première réaction, c'est effectivement de vous agresser, de vous brutaliser. Donc, si j'accepte la peine de mort, ça veut dire que je me mets au niveau de celui qui a tué. Eh bien, dans le domaine de la torture, je crois qu'on peut avoir la même démarche et se dire que si on accepte la torture, on se met au niveau des tortionnaires et des terroristes que nous condamnons. Pour toutes ces raisons, je crois que nous devons adopter la proposition de résolution de notre collègue Tony Lloyd. J'en profite pour dire qu'en son temps, la France a condamné le survol de son territoire pour le transfert de personnes soupçonnées de terrorisme et enlevées en dehors de toute procédure régulière. Je crois que l'état de droit doit s'imposer à tous et partout, sans exception. C'est aussi ça, une marque des progrès de la nature humaine et également du respect des droits de l'homme.
Thank you, Lanieri. Then we have Mr. Cardoso from the United States and then Pierluigi Mantini from Italy. Mr. Cardoso, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. The late dissident Andrei Sakharov once said, the Helsinki Accords have meaning only if they are fully observed fully and by all parties. No country should evade a discussion of its own domestic issues, nor should a country ignore violations of other participating states. The whole point of the Helsinki Accords is mutual monitoring, not mutual evasion of difficult problems. This supplementary item relates to the issues that remain controversial within the United States. With the words of Andrei Sakharov in mind, I welcome the efforts of my colleagues from the United Kingdom to promote consideration of such human rights issues. I would like to make one observation, however, regarding paragraph 7, where the case of a former CIA agent, John Kiriakou, is mentioned. Mr. Kiriakou was indicted on April 5th and charged with disclosing classified information, including the name of a covert officer. Although Mr. Kirakou is portrayed in some circles as a whistleblower, I believe his record is much more complicated. Indeed, in 2007 interview with ABC News, he effectively defended waterboarding as an effective interrogation technique, as an assertion welcomed by those advocating waterboarding at that time and similar interrogation methods. Accordingly, I urge my colleagues here to consider his record with extreme care.
Thank you, Mr. Cardoso. Pierluigi Mantini from Italy.
Sostengo con molta convinzione questa proposta di risoluzione illustrata da Tony Lloyd. È chiaro che queste pratiche di rendition sono contrarie ai diritti umani e anche ai principi di legalità nel contrasto del terrorismo. Ricordo che in Italia, nel caso di una rendition, di un sequestro ad opera di servizi segreti di un imam sospettato di terrorismo, un imam islamico, c'è stata poi una sentenza della Corte Costituzionale che ha dato ragione alla Procura di Milano che contestava l'apposizione di un vincolo di segreto di Stato. E queste pratiche si sono sviluppate nei tempi recenti, soprattutto diciamo nei paesi di ambito NATO, e questo credo che desti sospetti sfavorevoli anche a questa organizzazione, quindi anche per questi motivi dovremmo essere molto vigili. E inoltre sono pratiche che, essendo contrarie ai diritti umani e ai diritti anche diritti di Caino, cioè inteso come una corretta applicazione delle misure di polizia e anche delle misure di prevenzione nei confronti dei sospettati, ma sempre nel rispetto della legge, finiscono per giustificare il terrorismo. Dunque è bene che l'OSCE insista nella sua azione per avere un principio legale, una regola legale, come è per il fermo di polizia, per misure temporanee di arresto, anche di interrogatorio e in condizioni dure, ma dentro un principio legale su cui dobbiamo insistere. Grazie.
Grazie Pierluigi. I don't have any other speaker on my list now, so we close the general debate and I call on Mr. Tony Lloyd to reply to the debate if he wishes to do so.
Only very, very briefly, Matteo, I think to say I'm grateful for Mr. Cardoso for taking part in this debate. It's important, obviously, that there is a debate in Europe. It's also important that there is a proper debate in the United States, an understanding of the concerns that exist both in the United States here in Europe, and also the concerns that exist in Europe are heard in the US. That way allows us to make progress. That way, I think, allows us to recognise that the impact of these practices has been can only be placed in a very negative context in the way in which we collectively engage in this fight against terrorism. So once again, my thanks to Mr. Cardoso for his participation.
All right, thank you, Tony. Now we move to the consideration of the resolution. One amendment has been tabled to this draft resolution. So I will allow, during the work of our committee, the presentation of the amendments for a brief time in favor, and then one speaker would speak against, if that is the case. And then I will ask also the sponsor of the draft resolution to give his opinion before we put the amendment to the vote. So Now I call to Mr. Rashkin of the Russian Federation to propose the amendment number 1.
Уважаемые участники заседания, от Российской Федерации мы предлагаем включить новый пункт после пункта 12, принимая во внимание глубокую озабоченность рабочей группы Организации Объединенных Наций по произвольным задержаниям в связи с секретной программой ЦРУ, предлагаем ее включить. Прошу поддержать.
All right, thank you. Does anybody wish to speak against this amendment? None. What is the opinion of the principal sponsor, Mr. Tony Lloyd?
I understand, Mr. McCatchy, that this is a simply statement of fact, and as a statement of fact, it must find a proper place in this resolution, this supplementary item.
So we shall now put the amendment to the vote. Those in favor of amendment number 1, please raise their voting card. All right, thank you. Those against the amendment, please raise your cards. None. Any abstentions? None. The one abstention. The amendment is adopted. So we now conclude the discussion of the amendments. So I propose that we now move to formally vote on the draft resolution as amended. Would those in favor of adopting the resolution please raise your voting cards? Thank you. Anybody against? None. Any abstention? There is one, what is that? I don't know, whatever. I think was in favor but remained in the air. So the resolution is adopted. Thank you, Mr. Tony Lloyd, for presenting this important draft resolution. The second supplementary item on the agenda is the draft resolution on transnational fugitive offenders, sponsored by Ms. Ase Mikkelsen of Norway, and I call on Ms. Mikkelsen to introduce the draft resolution. Ms. Mikkelsen, you have the floor.
Dear colleagues, the purpose of this resolution I put forward is to fight one of the worst forms of injustice. The kind of justice we see when people who are guilty of serious criminal acts, like murder, escape the country where the criminal act was committed and seek refuge in their home country. There are several cases of this around the world, also involving OSCE countries. In many such cases, extradition agreements are of great help. Such agreements do not guarantee that offenders are brought to justice, but they nevertheless make it much easier. But what do when a grave criminal act has been committed, like murder? The likely perpetrator seeks refuge in his or her home country, and the two countries do not have an extradition agreement. I would tell you what often happens: impunity. The offender enjoys his freedom, while grave injustice is done to the victim and those left behind. I'll give you a concrete example. On 14th of March 2008, the 23-year-old Norwegian student, Martine Vik Magnussen, was found dead in the basement of a London apartment block. She had been raped and killed. The British police soon issued an international warrant for the arrest of Farouk Abdul Haq, a Yemeni citizen who was observed with Martine the night she disappeared. But shortly after Martine's disappearance, Abdul Haq fled to his home country. There is no extradition agreement between Great Britain and Yemen, and so far, all efforts to get him extradited have failed. He enjoys his freedom, protected by his authorities and powerful individuals. This is a case involving OSCE countries and a non-member country. But please note that many OSCE countries have not entered into bilateral extradition treaties or signed the European Convention on Extradition. So, the problem I have described is definitely relevant to the OSCE. The purpose of the resolution on transnational fugitive offenders is to address injustice, a serious gap in international law. We cannot accept that impunity prevails. Murderers must be brought to justice. I know that it will take a lot for countries to enter into a voluntary agreement on this issue for investigation, prosecution, trial, prison regime, and other legal aspects. But we have to start somewhere. In the longer run, I think we should look at the possibility of creating an international legal authority for these cases, linked to the International Criminal Court in Hague. In conclusion, the objective of my resolution is to fight an awful form of injustice which leads to de facto impunity. It may be a small step, but over time, I hope that the ideas contained in the text will gain broad support. And your support to the resolution will be gratefully appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mikkelsen. Now the debate on the draft resolution is open. Does anybody wish to speak on this issue? If not, we can move to vote on the draft resolution because no amendments have been proposed to it. Would those in favor of adopting the resolution please raise your cards? Thank you. Those against? None. Abstentions? One abstention. Two abstentions. Thank you. So, 3. So the draft resolution is adopted. And we can now move to the third supplementary item on our agenda, which is the draft resolution on improving election observation in the OSCE participating states, sponsored by Mr. Nikolai Kovalev of the Russian Federation. He's not here, but we had another member of the Russian Federation who was supposed to present the resolution. So if we can try to find him somewhere. Because he specifically asked to present the resolution. Yes, he's coming. Perfect. It's Mr. Rashkin from the Russian Federation who's going to present this draft resolution whose title is Improving Election Observation in the OSCE Participating States. Mr. Rashkin, you have the floor. You have the floor, sir.
Да, прошу прощения. Уважаемые коллеги, многие выборы проходят в разных странах, и парламентская ассамблея, ОБСЕ, БДИПШ участвует в этих выборах с разными критериями оценок по результатам голосования и оценки по нарушениям этих голосований. В Российской Федерации, в частности, на последних выборах, это думские выборы, президентские выборы Российской Федерации, участвовали, и при подведении итогов было озвучено достаточно количество замечаний, которые, в общем-то, разница по оценкам их в периоде законодательства Российской Федерации на международном уровне. Поэтому, анализируя ситуацию, связанную с подведением итогами, мы предлагаем, чтобы и призываем Парламентскую ассамблею ОБСЕ, БДИПШ провести сравнительный анализ избирательного законодательства и практики всех государств, участников ОБСЕ, том числе на предмет их соответствия положениям Копенгагенского документа с целью выявления общих проблем и определения путей их решения путем составления наилучшей практики в электоральной сфере. Здесь, как мы показывает время и практика, есть расхождение в оценках и суждениях комиссии по наблюдению и выводы, которые они делают после проведения наблюдения за выборами разных форм. Мы также призываем парламентскую ассамблею ОБСЕ и государств-участники использовать результаты этого анализа для разработки единых стандартов, принципов и правил наблюдения за общенациональными выборами по линии и парламентской ассамблеи, и БДИП ОБСЕ с привлечением к этой работе экспертов, центральных избирательных органов и рекомендует использовать в этих целях уже согласованные в межгосударственном формате документы. В частности, это рекомендации для международных наблюдателей от Содружества независимых государств по наблюдению за выборами и референдумами, принятые на заседании Межпарламентской ассамблеи государств-участников стран независимых государств в мае 2011 года. Мы приветствуем и считаем очень важную роль, которую выполняет Парламентская ассамблея ОБСЕ в наблюдении за выборами во всех государствах-участниках организации и выступая за продолжение этой деятельности на основе принципов объективности, беспристрастности и транспарентности. Предлагаем проект резолюции о совершенствовании наблюдений за выборами в государствах-участниках ОБСЕ рассмотреть по пунктам. Спасибо.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rashkin. We can now open the debate on the draft resolution, and I call on the members who wish to speak to signal to the table office. We have Pierluigi Mantini from Italy, then from Albania, Germany, and so on. Please come to the table to signal. Mr. Mantini, you have the floor. Considering that we have several speakers, I would ask to keep the statement 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Senz'altro, grazie Presidente. La risoluzione proposta dal collega Kovalev è molto importante e dobbiamo tenere conto di tutte le prassi e gli stili nel migliorare le nostre osservazioni elettorali. Però trovo alcuni punti non molto condivisibili, soprattutto il punto 4, il punto 7 e il punto 14, perché sono volti a riaffermare una idea di osservazioni elettorali basati sui accordi interstatali, per esempio tra i paesi che aderiscono all'OSCE e quelli che aderiscono al CSI. Non si tratta di implementare il metodo interstatale, ma di implementare e migliorare il metodo OSCE. La Russia è un Stato centrale, fondamentale nell'OSCE. Tutte le osservazioni che vuole fare per migliorare il metodo può farlo in ambito OSCE, ma sarei contrario ad una visione bilaterale o trilaterale di questo problema su cui l'OSCE, sin dal Trattato di Helsinki e poi quello di Copenaghen, ha una sua particolare importanza, storia, ruolo. Grazie.
Grazie Pierluigi. Now to the colleague from Albania. You have the floor.
My name is Arta Dada. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm so much sensitive to this issue as long as in my country recently we have serious problems with elections. And I think that standards remain standards. Standards in conducting free and fair elections have nothing to do with separate conditions or special conditions, historical or social or economic, as it is stated in this draft resolution. Because even if that is the case, we need to make our countries come to the point that we have to respect all standards. And I call upon this assembly that we should not close the eyes when we observe violations, gross violations, as it has happened with the parliamentary elections in Albania in 2009. And on the way, the report undergone lots of changes in favor of the government. And this is not the case, and I have to commend the mission for the 2011, which really brought to the forth lots of serious problems with elections. It's unpardonable that in 2012 there are countries in this region that fail to conduct free and fair elections. And I want to share with you another concern. We have to fulfill the recommendations of ODIHR and OSCE in our respective parliaments. Unfortunately, this is not the case because governments tend to block the transparency for the elections. They tend to be tenacious to the people nominated with the responsibility for conducting free and fair elections, like the National Committee. And of course, this is the case, and this is the point we are at in my country. And all deadlines have finished with the electoral reform. So I want to appeal once again that it's unpardonable that us, parliamentarians representing countries which have long are on the way to democracy, still have serious problems with elections. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to our colleague from Germany.
Mein Name ist Stefan Liebig. Ich verstehe die Sorge unserer russischen Kollegen, dass Wahlbeobachtungen zu ungerechten Bewertungen führen können, sehr gut. Finde aber, dass der Vorschlag, der hier vorgelegt wird, in die falsche Richtung geht. Ich glaube, dass ODIHR und auch die Wahlbeobachter der OSZE ihre Arbeit sehr gut machen und dass ein zentraler Punkt dabei deren Unabhängigkeit ist. Und ich glaube, wenn man, wie hier vorgeschlagen, einen Weg geht, der beinhaltet, dass man Vertreter der nationalen Wahlkommissionen implementieren soll in die Arbeit, dann geht das genau in die entgegengesetzte Richtung, weil das die Unabhängigkeit von ODIHR und OSZE in Frage stellen würde. Deshalb würde ich empfehlen, dass wir diesem Vorschlag hier nicht folgen.
Thank you very much. We now move to the next speaker from Norway. Norway? No, didn't ask. From Belarus, I think. Belarus, then Sweden, and no, Mr. Batelli, then Sweden. Yes.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Уважаемые коллеги, мне представляется, что резолюция, предложенная господином Ковалевым, крайне актуальна. И это подтверждает вчерашние дискуссии и на постоянном комитете, и на пленарном заседании. Практически все выступающие высказывали определенную озабоченность, поднимали не просто вопрос, а говорили о проблеме, которая требует решения. Преодолеть сложившуюся ситуацию в отношении организации наблюдения за выборами возможно путем только коллективного согласования и принятия единого свода правил и стандартов наблюдения за выборами. Именно эту цель преследовал, если вы помните, документ «Базовые принципы организации наблюдения за общенациональными выборами по линии БДИЧ». Этот документ был выдвинут рядом стран ОБСЕ еще в 2007 году. Он остается на рабочем столе организации и по-прежнему актуален. В связи с тем, что сохраняются, как мы видим из сегодняшней даже дискуссии, противоречия в отношении организации наблюдения за выборами, я полагаю, что целесообразно продолжать наши совместные усилия по совершенствованию этой работы. И предлагаемая резолюция провести анализ, на основании этого анализа попытаться сделать шаг вперед очень важна для нас. И приняв эту резолюцию, мы сделаем нужный шаг в нужном направлении. Спасибо.
Thank you very much. Now give the floor to Mr. Battelli from Slovenia, who's sitting in the Holy See seat.
È solo per non far alzare i colleghi, perché sono comunque da solo in questo comitato. Grazie. Yes, I wanted to say that there are some strange approaches in this proposal. I know also through the experience, through the praxis, that it happened sometimes that CIS observers had one opinion of the election in a country, and our colleagues from the Russian Federation observing the election with us had another opinion on the elections in the same country. Now, it is a matter of fact that we are OSCE observers, we are members, all our countries are members of the OSCE, which has been already said and stressed. And we have already the criteria, and this is the point. So this proposal of an additional item would like to change that, or to put some relativity in principles that are already settled and that we are following, and they are not even in many times fulfilled. We are still working on the fulfilling of these standards in every country. So I will not support this resolution when the vote comes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Roberto. We now give the floor to our friend Valburga from Sweden.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I must also say it's always important and interesting to discuss election observation, and this is a book with many chapters. But I would also say that the overall approach of this resolution is very difficult, and it's a resolution with very many diverse parts, and I think that it's good if we vote on each point separately, because there are points that I absolutely think are not supportable by a majority of us, especially of those who led observation missions. It's very important that we, first of all, keep our independence as OSCE. What we do is that we invite the others to agree with us on our findings that we find, but it cannot be possible that we try to call for a consensus. It never is going to work. As my friend Roberto Battelli said, we very often disagree on the findings, and then it's good that we have our autonomy. And it's important also that we have the possibility of telling our findings, which are not biased assessments. It's the findings of parliamentarians who represent the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, and that we tell our findings and our assessments, which are not biased, I want to repeat, to the countries concerned so that they can adapt their legislation if they think that this is appropriate. And therefore, I think it's good that we vote separately, because I find big problems in voting for number 4, 7, 10, 11, and 12. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Valburga. Now we move to the next speaker from Ukraine. Then I close we have other two, and then I close at the end of this.
Александр Стоян, Украина. Уважаемые коллеги, безусловно, в каждой стране есть свои законы о выборах. Они соответствуют конституциям страны. И тут, конечно, вмешиваться мы не имеем права, потому что они утверждены парламентами, они утверждены как законы. Но, тем не менее, все мы с вами, или большинство с нас, бывает наблюдателем этого ОБСЕ. Мне приходилось бывать и в России, и в других странах. И вы знаете, вот если нет единого подхода, очень тяжело определиться, насколько соблюдаются законы при выборах, насколько они отвечают международным стандартам, международным нормам. И коллеги из России сделали очень хорошую попытку. Они хотят все-таки не унифицировать наше законодательство о выборах. Они хотят найти общие точки соприкосновения при отработки какого-то единого подхода с тем, что нам легче было, как представителям ОБСЕ, побывать на выборах в роли наблюдателей и дать определенные оценки. Поэтому я лично буду поддерживать эту резолюцию наших коллег из России и призываю всех вас поддержать ее. Можно согласиться с предыдущей коллегой, которая сказала действительно о том, что есть очень ценные пункты, которые нам всем подходят, и есть пункты, которые вызывают сомнения. Для того, чтобы не завалить, скажем так, эту резолюцию, можно пойти по такому пути, проголосовать за важные ценные пункты, и потом посмотрим, если удастся в целом, или оставить пункты, которые нам всем подходят и не вызывают сомнения. Благодарю вас.
Thank you, Mr. Stoyan. Just to remind that Mr. Raskin already requested to vote paragraph by paragraph, and at the end of the debate we will decide on this issue. So we now have two more speakers, Ms. Allegrini from Italy, and then the Vice President Alaniri. Laura, hai la parola.
Anche io sono d'accordo sulla votazione separata per punti di questa risoluzione. Importante la collaborazione degli organismi che effettuano monitoraggi. Chi come me ha monitorato le elezioni negli Stati Uniti e in Russia sa quanto diverse siano le leggi e quanto questo sia impossibile realizzare per alcuni punti quello che la risoluzione chiede. È importante conservare la nostra indipendenza di parlamentari, che abbiamo una visione della democrazia alla luce anche di quanto vediamo nel nostro Paese. Ed è anche importante che il form che ci viene dato, il verbale che noi a conclusione di ogni monitoraggio facciamo, consegua anche ad una discussione. Se ci fosse una mera applicazione meccanica, noi non ci confronteremmo su quello che abbiamo visto. Non contano solo quindi le regole, ma anche come si applicano e nel modo nel quale noi le rileviamo, le vediamo e le interpretiamo da parlamentari. Io credo che questa nostra indipendenza noi la dobbiamo conservare.
Grazie Laura. The last speaker is Vice President Senator Neri.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, merci. Je pense que le fait d'être membre de l'OSCE repose sur le respect des droits de l'homme, du citoyen, le respect de la démocratie. Or, la pierre angulaire de la construction de la démocratie, c'est avant tout le respect du suffrage universel. Le suffrage universel est, à mes yeux, l'onction suprême de la démocratie. Or, le respect et l'organisation d'élections libres est une chose que tout le monde doit accepter. Le verdict des élections doit s'imposer à tous, quel que soit le résultat. Et la façon dont est conduite l'élection est effectivement un moment important. Et je crois que l'OSCE, dans ce domaine-là, est reconnue par la qualité de ses observations électorales et par la qualité du travail réalisé par ses membres lors de ces observations électorales. Adopter cette résolution, à mes yeux, serait affaiblir nous-mêmes le rôle de l'OSCE et peut-être même contester le rôle de l'action de nos collègues qui sont membres des missions d'observation. Je crois qu'il faut également comprendre une chose, c'est que les observations qui sont faites sont faites en fonction de critères et de règles que nous avons définis en commun et qui sont rappelés avant chaque début de mission. Et ceux qui pensent à l'issue des conclusions des missions qu'il y a une remise en cause de leur système électoral, soyez certains, chers collègues, que lorsque c'est le cas, vous dépassez sûrement l'interprétation de ce que veulent dire nos collègues. Lorsque nous faisons des observations, si parfois elles peuvent paraître être une critique, ces critiques doivent être prises dans le sens d'un conseil, d'une aide pour améliorer le fonctionnement démocratique des élections dans ce pays, et non pas une condamnation. Pour toutes ces raisons, je crois que nous ne pouvons donner une suite favorable à la résolution qui nous est proposée, car ça reviendra en quelque sorte à nous-mêmes nous affaiblir dans l'action que nous menons aux côtés du BDDH. Et peut-être, nous avons abordé hier cette question avec d'autres organisations, comme celle du Conseil de l'Europe. Donc, chers amis, moi je crois que renforçons l'action, la clarté, la transparence de nos observations et rappelons le rôle essentiel de l'OSCE pour la défense de la démocratie et d'élections libres.
Thank you, Mr. Neri. I now give the floor to Mr. Raskin if he wants to reply to the debate.
Спасибо большое. Уважаемые господа, большое спасибо за высказанное мнение при обсуждении данной проекта резолюции. Оно имеет место, потому что каждый участвует в выборах в качестве наблюдателей в разных странах и имеет свое представление о том, как проходят выборы, насколько они демократичны, насколько они соответствуют законодательству субъектов федерации и насколько они соответствуют нашим представлениям о проведении честных, демократичных выборах в разных странах. Необходимо, на мой взгляд, также акцентировать внимание на том, что в настоящий момент в ОБСЕ нет утвержденных государством-участниками ОБСЕ правил наблюдения за выборами, так же, как ОБСЕ не проводит полноценного наблюдения за выборами в государствах, расположенных к западу от Вены. Отсутствие четких правил ведет к потере доверия государств-участников и деятельности ОБСЕ и ее бюро по демократическим институтам и правилам человека, ведет к падению авторитета ОБСЕ именно в данных вопросах. Мы не предлагаем полностью менять систему, но призываем вести работу по совершенствованию методологии, что будет способствовать большему доверию как к БДИПС, так и к ОБСЕ. Поэтому предлагается еще раз проект резолюции рассмотреть. Предлагаем обсуждать проект по пунктам. Спасибо.
Grazie mille. Thank you very much, Mr. Raskin. So, as we mentioned, there is a proposal by Mr. Raskin to go through the 14 paragraphs of the resolution one by one and to vote on each paragraph, either to maintain or not to approve it in the resolution. No amendments have been proposed. So are there any objections to the fact that we want to vote paragraph by paragraph the resolution? Yes. From which country? I cannot see. Switzerland. Yes, you have the floor, sir.
Punkt abstimmen.
Sorry.
Ich möchte, dass Sie darüber abstimmen, ob wir Punkt für Punkt abstimmen. Ich möchte eigentlich die ganze Resolution ablehnen und für mich macht es deshalb keinen Sinn, die 14 Punkte einzeln abzustimmen. Also wenn Sie vielleicht zuerst abstimmen würden, ob wir einzeln oder ob wir in globo abstimmen würden, wäre ich sehr froh. Vielen Dank.
Yes, I was asking if there were any objections to this procedure. If there are objections, we cannot go paragraph by paragraph. We are not going to vote on the fact of voting paragraph by paragraph. So if you maintain your objection to the voting paragraph by paragraph, we just move to the vote on the resolution. Is that the case? Okay. If that is the case, we cannot accept the proposal to go paragraph by paragraph. Sorry? Is it possible? All right. So I've been told by the staff that, the rules are not clear on this point. So it's up to the committee to decide what procedure we want to follow. So if there was consensus, we would move directly voting paragraph by paragraph. But I think there is also a possibility, if there are no objections, that we can also vote on this decision, either to vote paragraph by paragraph or on the entire resolution. So if there are no objections, I accept the proposal by the Swiss delegation to put to a vote the request of the Russian Federation. Is that okay? Sweden?
Mr. Chair, thank you, Mr. Chair. Is a bit confusion here in the Swedish bench. Is it possible to have a vote about if we should have a vote about the separate paragraphs? I think it's more appropriate that we vote about the procedure before we go to the final vote.
Exactly. All right. We can put the proposal by the Swiss delegation to a vote. So those in favor of considering the resolution paragraph by paragraph, please raise your card. All right. Anybody against? I think we have to count. Okay. Oh, okay, but we count this one against? Okay. Abstentions? Two. I think we didn't count the first voting. So please, those in favor voting paragraph by paragraph, please raise your cards again and hold it for 30 seconds at least. Okay? Okay, 26 in favor. Again, sorry, those against? Keep your hands on, please. Keep your hands on. 22 against, abstention against, sorry. 1 abstention. So the proposal to vote paragraph by paragraph is approved. So we now, all right. So now we're going to go, as I said, paragraph by paragraph, and I will allow an opponent of each paragraph to speak for a maximum of 1 minute, let's say 2 minutes. And then I will give to Mr. Rashkin the opportunity to express his opinion before putting the paragraph to the vote. So does anybody wish to speak against paragraph 1? No? Does Mr. Rashkin wish to speak in favor, or we just go? Okay. So we now put paragraph 1 to the vote. Those in favor of paragraph 1, please raise your cards. I think we have to count every time now. I think it's quite clear. Those against? All right. 6, 7, 8. All right. Abstentions? 4. So the paragraph 1 is adopted. Moving to paragraph 2. Does anybody wish to speak against paragraph 2? No. Mr. Raskin, wish to speak in favor? No. So we put paragraph 2 to the vote. Those in favor of keeping paragraph 2, please raise your cards. Thank you. Those against? Okay, it's approved. Abstentions? 1 abstention. So paragraph 2 is approved. We move now to paragraph 3. Anybody wish to speak against? No. Mr. Raskin, you want to speak? You have the floor. No, you don't need to speak, all right. So we put paragraph 3 to a vote. Those in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's fine. Okay. Abstentions? 1 abstention. All right. Paragraph 3 is adopted. We move to paragraph 4. Anybody wish to speak against paragraph 4? Sweden. Mr. Valburga.
Thank you. I think that this paragraph is unnecessary because the mandates are absolutely clear. We have the Copenhagen Agreement, and we do not want that the autonomy of our parliamentary assembly is reduced in any way. That's why I am against paragraph 4. Thank you.
Mr. Rashkin, against?
Уважаемые коллеги, этот пункт усиливает роль и подчеркивает роль директивных органов ОБСЕ в принятии решений по любым вопросам. Поэтому, на наш взгляд, необходимо его оставить, чтобы ключевым образом подчеркнуть весь проект резолюции и его основу. Эта резолюция как ключевую это нормы и директивы органов ОБСЕ. Спасибо.
Thank you, Mr. Rashkin. Just to clarify now, to keep paragraph 4, you have to vote in favor of maintaining. To delete paragraph 4, you have to vote against. Those in favor of maintaining paragraph 4 in the resolution, please raise your cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, I think, something like that. All right. Those against keeping paragraph 4? Thank you. Abstention? 1 abstention. So the paragraph 4 is rejected. We move now to paragraph 5. Anybody wish to speak against paragraph 5? No? Mr. Rashkin? No? So we put paragraph 5 to a vote. Those in favor of keeping paragraph 5 in the resolution, please raise your cards. Thank you. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you. Abstentions? 5, 6 abstentions. Thank you. Paragraph 5 is adopted. We now move to paragraph 6. Anybody wish to speak against paragraph 6? If that's not the case, Mr. Rashkin, we move to put paragraph 6 to the vote. Will those in favor of maintaining paragraph 6, please raise your cards. Thank you. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you. Abstentions? 5 abstentions. Thank you very much. We move to paragraph 7. Paragraph 6 is adopted, rightly so. And then to paragraph 7, I have a request from Latvia to speak against.
Mr. Chairman, dear colleagues, this paragraph contravenes the very basis of OSCE, which is the Association of Individual States. Furthermore, there is no need to establish cooperation with the Interparliamentary Assembly of CIS member nations, because there already exists good and improving cooperation with most of the individual member nations. Therefore, I move that this paragraph is redundant and be deleted from this resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Rashkin from the Russian Federation.
Уважаемые коллеги, огромное спасибо за мнение. И действительно, я подчеркиваю, что на многих выборах, и особенно последние выборы, проводимых на территории сотрудничества Парламентской ассамблеи ОБСЕ, мы видим, что есть государства-участники СНГ, наблюдатели, которые вместе с нами проводят эти наблюдения, выражают свое мнение и делают выводы. И мы взаимодействуем, я соглашусь с госпожой, что мы взаимодействуем с ними путем разных совещаний, переговоров и дискуссий. Поэтому мы здесь только констатируем и подчеркиваем необходимость налаживания сотрудничества между БДИЧ, Парламентской ассамблеей ОБСЕ и Межпарламентской ассамблеей государств-участников СНГ в электоральной сфере путем заключения соответствующих соглашений, потому что на встречах с наблюдателями государств-участников СНГ много есть нюансов, и мы их наблюдаем при проведении этих выборов, определяющих порядок совместного наблюдения за выборами в государствах, участниках СНГ. Поэтому просьба поддержать 7-й пункт, который определяет и подчеркивает необходимость налаживания такого сотрудничества. Спасибо.
Thank you very much. We now put paragraph 7 to a vote. Those who want to maintain paragraph 7 in the resolution, please raise your card. Thank you. Those against maintaining paragraph 7, please raise your cards. Thank you. Abstentions? All right. The paragraph 7 is rejected. We now move to paragraph 8. Anybody wish to speak against paragraph 8? No? Mr. Rashkin? All right. We put paragraph 8 to a vote. Those in favor of maintaining paragraph 8, please raise your cards. Thank you. Those against? Thank you. Abstentions? Thanks. Paragraph 8 is adopted. We move to paragraph 9. Anybody wish to speak against paragraph 9? United States. Mr. Cardozo, you have the floor.
Thank you. With regard to paragraph 9, it seems to me that there are a number of documents that are mentioned here. They certainly exist, but we don't have them before our group today to review them. Without the reviewing of all these documents and what is contained within them, I have concerns with us adopting and formalizing this as the policy of the organization when we have not studied what each of these documents contain.
All right. Mr. Rashkin, you have the floor. Okay. From Belarus, you have the floor.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Я думаю, что не совсем верно будет исходить из того, что мы не знаем, о чем идет речь. Документы СМИДа и другие документы ОБСЕ, они открыты, и, естественно, мы их читаем, мы их знаем. Поэтому руководствоваться этими документами мы просто обязаны. И все страны, члены ОБСЕ, проголосовали за эти решения. Они приняты, они реальны, они действуют. Странно будет сказать, что мы о них не знаем. Поэтому я думаю, что этот пункт следует сохранить.
Thank you, Ms. Mazai. So we now put paragraph 9 to the vote. Those in favor of maintaining paragraph 9, please raise your cards. 21. All right. Those against? No, please raise your card because they're saying either 21 or 20. So. (22) Abstentions. 6, 7. So paragraph 9 is rejected. We move now to paragraph 10. Does anybody wish to speak against paragraph 10? Sweden. Walburga, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Again, I would like to say that we have the Copenhagen commitments and we have to adapt to the different situation in every country. We cannot start to have a conform or consensus agreement that would kill the idea of election observations as they are today. Thank you.
Thank you, Walburga. Mr. Rashkin, you want to speak on this issue? No? You want to speak on this issue? Yes.
Да, уважаемые коллеги, ну, на наш взгляд, это абсолютно обязательный пункт, который показывает о том, что государства, участники и, значит, утвержденных коллегиальных органов Организации единых стандартов, оно необходимо при проведении выборов. Нет принципов и правил международного наблюдения, которые мы обговариваем на своих заседаниях, в комитетах в том числе, и обговариваем на совещаниях, приезжая в ту или иную страну, как наблюдать, выезжая на избирательные участки, те или иные. И при подведении итогов у нас нет единой методологии обработки информации, которую мы привозим в наш коллективный орган, коллегиальный орган, и при обсуждении мы получаем достаточно много вопросов, ссылок на которых нет в методологических документах нашей организации ОБСЕ. И по итогам наблюдения и подготовки итоговых отчетов получается, есть разные мнения, разные точки зрения. И иногда они не находят точки соприкосновения. И мы предлагаем именно, мы обеспокоены этим и предлагаем провести такую работу, оставив этот пункт в резолюции. Поэтому просьба поддержать.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rashkin. We now put paragraph 10 to a vote. Those in favor of maintaining paragraph 10, please raise your cards. All right. Thank you. Those against? Thank you. Abstentions? None. So paragraph 10 is rejected. We move to paragraph 11. Anybody wish to speak against? Switzerland, you have the floor.
Ja, geschätzte Anwesende, ich glaube, das ist eine Konsequenz des letzten Entscheids, dass wir auch diesen Punkt nicht aufnehmen. Es ist nicht so, dass man, egal was für Regeln man auch zusammenstellt, vermeiden kann, dass die eine oder andere Seite das Gefühl hat, es sei nicht ganz korrekt gegangen. Und nachdem wir eben den Punkt 10 gestrichen haben, macht der Punkt 11 keinen Sinn.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rashkin? Pardon, only one for each.
Уважаемые коллеги, на наш взгляд, пункт 10 и 11, они, конечно, выходят один из другого, и хотя бы 11 пункт необходимо оставить, так как мы выражаем убежденность в том, что скорейшая выработка именно в межправительственном формате типового алгоритма мониторинга выборов в во всех странах-участников ОБСЕ на основе единых для всех правил позволило бы устранить необъективные оценки избирательных процессов и неадекватные выводы, естественно, на выборах, что только бы привело к повышению авторитета наблюдателя от ОБСЕ, выводы в дичь, и привело бы к тому, на наш взгляд, что парламентарии стран более внимательно посмотрели на свое законодательство, унифицировав его и, с точки зрения демократизации, честности выборов, прозрачности выборов, особенно связанные с мониторингом. Поэтому просьба, значит, если 10-й пункт отвергнут, оставить 11-й пункт. Спасибо.
Thank you very much. We now put paragraph 11 to a vote. Those in favor of maintaining paragraph 11, please raise your cards. Thank you. Those against? Thank you. Abstentions? None. So paragraph 11 is rejected. Paragraph 12. Anybody wish to speak against? Yes. Malta, you have the floor.
Yes, once paragraphs 10 and 11 now have been deleted, 12 on its own doesn't actually make sense to the motion. So I feel that we should vote also against.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rashkin.
Уважаемые коллеги, я поддерживаю выступающего предыдущего. Конечно, эти все пункты 10, 11, 12, они связаны друг с другом, выходит логично, учитывая, что мы обеспокоены отсутствием ОБСЕ согласованных государств-участники единых нормативных документов. Убеждены и подчеркиваем, что в связи с этим надо вот хотя бы 12-й пункт его сохранить. Ну, на ваше волеизъявление. Спасибо.
All right. So those in favor of maintaining paragraph 12 in the resolution, please raise your cards. Thank you. Those against? Thanks. Abstentions? One abstention. So paragraph number 12 is rejected. We now move to paragraph 13. Anybody wish to speak against? No? Mr. Rashkin? I guess not. So we put paragraph 13 to a vote. Those in favor of maintaining paragraph 13, please raise your cards. Thank you. Those against? Thank you. Abstentions? 5 abstentions, 6 abstentions. So paragraph 13 is adopted. We now move to paragraph 14, and I recommend that the way in which this paragraph is written can be considered as 2 separate paragraphs, because there are 2 recommendations. So I would split the proposal I make is to split this paragraph in 2. The first one from calls upon the participating states until from central election bodies, and then a separate paragraph recommends, which is with a line below that, using for that purpose documents already agreed at the interstate level, etc. So this is the proposal that I put to a vote. So we have 2 votes here, and if anybody wishes to speak against the first part of paragraph 14, Mr. Mantini from Italy, you have the floor.
Grazie Presidente. Esprimo parere favorevole alla prima parte del punto 14 e parere contrario alla seconda parte perché raccomanda un livello di indirizzi per i monitoraggi elettorali basato sul metodo interstatale. Noi dobbiamo migliorare, se necessario, gli standard dell'OSCE nelle osservazioni elettorali. La Federazione Russa è parte molto importante dell'OSCE e non ha bisogno di cercare tutele in altre associazioni. Siamo sicuri che il contributo della Federazione Russa al miglioramento degli standard nelle osservazioni, nei monitoraggi elettorali, sarà dentro l'OSCE, dentro l'attività dell'OSCE che si è distinta storicamente per importanza e non fuori da essa. La seconda parte è da respingere.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rashkin, it's one and one.
Уважаемые коллеги, на мой взгляд, мы согласны разделить 14 пункт на две составляющие. Призывает государств-участникам и рекомендует. Хочу отметить, что вторая часть, рекомендующая, она не является базовой и не является как бы стратегической. Здесь она используется как в форме примера разработанных уже межгосударственных документов в части рекомендаций для международных наблюдателей от Содружества независимых государств по наблюдению за выборами и референдумами. Он отработан, имеет исторические корни, проверенный на практике, поэтому в качестве, как основы, можно было бы, на наш взгляд, их и применить. Но 14 пункт, согласен, надо разделить. Спасибо.
So, as I said, we are going to have two votes, but we already heard for the second part one against and one in favor. So we first vote on the first part of paragraph 14, as I said, from calls upon until central election bodies. Those in favor who wants to maintain the paragraph, please raise your cards. Thank you. Those against? Thank you. Abstentions? One abstention. So the first part of paragraph 14 is approved. We now move to the second part of paragraph 14 from recommends until the end of the resolution. Those in favor of maintaining the second part of paragraph 14, please raise your cards. Thank you. Those against? Thanks. Abstentions? 2 abstentions. All right, so the second part of paragraph 14 is rejected. We have now finished the consideration of the draft resolution sponsored by Mr. Kovalev and presented by Mr. Rashkin. So we thank you for your work, hard work on this resolution. And I now propose that we move formally to vote on the draft resolution as amended. Those in favor of adopting the resolution, please raise your cards. Thank you. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 against. Abstentions? None. So the draft resolution is adopted and as amended. As I said, we approved it as amended. So thank you also to Mr. Kovalev and Mr. Raskin for tabling this resolution. We now move to the next supplementary item. We have 20 minutes. Probably we will not finish the consideration of this supplementary item, but I think it's important to use the time that we have at our disposal. And the next supplementary item, as you can see from the agenda, is the draft resolution on Belarus, who sponsored once again by our colleague Tony Lloyd from the United Kingdom, and I call on Tony Lloyd to introduce the draft resolution. You have the floor.
Thank you, Matteo. This is obviously a very important resolution. I'm pleased that actually, in a sense, that this follows the previous debate on election monitoring, because Belarus has announced it will have parliamentary elections in September of this year, and I look forward to hearing what I believe to be the case, that Belarus will welcome international observers to monitor that election, observers in particular, of course, from the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. We also meet today when I think it may still be the case, I'm not clear about this, that the United Nations Human Rights Council will have a hearing on the proposition to create the post of a special rapporteur on Belarus because of the still deteriorating and extremely worrying human rights situation in Belarus. We can look at various aspects of the situation in Belarus, all of which cause, I think, enormous problems, not to people in my country, not to people in yours, Mr. McCatchy, but actually to those who live in Belarus, because the erosion of basic freedoms, the lack of respect for basic human rights doesn't affect Italians, people in the United Kingdom. It affects the citizens of Belarus. And it's the invitation from the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly to our colleagues from Belarus is to take that message back, that Belarus is part of the mainstream of the OSCE family. We want the people of Belarus to share exactly the same basic rights, the same access to the norms and freedoms, the access to the institutional processes that we'd expect in any other country in the OSCE family. But let me start, if I can, by talking through some of the concerns that not simply have been raised, but are real and there on the ground. The question of media freedom. In the run-up to an election, media freedom, of course, is tremendously important. We've seen pressure on the media. We've seen, for example, cyber attacks against the independent media websites. These cyber attacks have made the role of those independent websites virtually impossible. They're, particularly for younger people, are a major source of information about events in Belarus and more widely. We've seen the launch, although later on the withdrawal, of proposals to close down the last two independent newspapers in Belarus, Nasha Niva and Narodnaya Volya. We've seen the recent arrest and now the holding pending trial of Andrei Pachobut, the ethnic Pole but Belarusian national who worked for a Polish newspaper. So we know that there is enormous pressure on any independent voice in the media taking place in Belarus. In a run-up to an important parliamentary election, this is something that must remain a major concern to our colleagues in the Parliamentary Assembly. We've seen the role of opposition political parties still coming under enormous pressure. The Belarusian Popular Front saw itself evicted from its premises in Minsk. The party of former presidential candidate Nikolaev, Tell the Truth, was denied registration, and so this story goes on. And civil society, so important in maintaining basic freedoms in any of our countries, also have come under enormous pressure. We saw the closure of the Belarus Helsinki Committee. The Helsinki committees arose from the Helsinki Declaration, fundamental to what the OSCE is all about. So it's almost astonishing that we discussed the closure of the Helsinki Committee here today in our Parliamentary Assembly. We've seen the prosecution of Ales Bialitsky, the leader of Visnad, the human rights organization in Belarus, who also is president of the International Human Rights Federation. He has now been given 4.5 years of hard labor on charges of allegations of tax evasion, but I think most people consider these charges to be coincidental, and his real offence is to be a defender of basic human rights. And extremely worrying, we've seen the show trials of people who take part in basic protests. You, Mr. McCatchy, and I were in Belarus on the 19th of December, the day of the presidential election, when the demonstrations took place in the centre of Belarus. And we know that following those demonstrations, most of us had strong views as to who the authors were of any violence, and many international observers, including myself, were of the view that the violence created was that from the Belarusian authorities, not from the demonstrators. 700 people were arrested. Most of those have been released, but not necessarily with exoneration of their actions. 43 people were charged with mass riots, including 5 of the former presidential candidates. Now, it's no great incentive to presidential candidates for people to stand for the presidency of Belarus, or indeed for political positions at all, if that process leads to being charged with mass riots. All but 8 of those have now happily been released, including Andrei Sanikov and Dmitry Bondarenko. But both of those two, whilst they've been released, the convictions against them still stand. They've not been exonerated or rehabilitated. There have also been very serious allegations of torture against those under arrest, in particular the case of Ales Mikhailevich, the former presidential candidate, released from prison on condition that he made no comment about his torture during his period of incarceration. On the 28th of February, he made exactly those comments and was then later questioned by the KGB. He now is, having been able to leave Belarus, has been given political asylum in the Czech Republic, and congratulations to our Czech colleagues for that situation. But even low-level protest has been met with a level of repression that is bizarre. Silent protests. I took part in, I will say this openly, in a silent protest outside the Belarusian embassy in London, a protest that consisted simply of noiseless presence, sometimes accompanied by clapping. Things that in most countries in this world would be greeted at best with by the authorities ignoring such a protest. In Belarus, this was met by fines and detention. And in the case of Sergei Kavalenka, who had previously been charged with displaying the former Belarusian white, red and white flag, and was given a suspended sentence for that, he was given a 2-year sentence when he took part in silent protests. So, and finally, Ms. McCatchy, I just want to draw attention to the political trials where lawyers defending people accused of political offences have found themselves under enormous pressure. Some of those lawyers have had their licences revoked for the crime of defending people accused of political offences. So the level of repression still continues. President Lukashenko is at the very centre of this. Through this assembly, we must call upon President Lukashenko to examine the record of Belarus, to recognise that it doesn't simply fall short of international standards, it falls so far short that Belarus does stand condemned. But the victims, I repeat, of Belarus standing condemned are not people in the rest of the OSCE family of nations. It's the people of Belarus who are its victims. And we call upon Belarus now to examine properly its commitments to Helsinki, its commitments to international covenants, to reform the law on media, the law on the formation of political parties, to allow a free and fair parliamentary election, and to begin the process, the important process of bringing Belarus, where we all want it, into the proper family of democratic nations that respect basic human rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd, for this very comprehensive presentation to the committee. We now have a debate on this draft resolution, and which is now open. And I call on Pia Kauma from Finland to speak on this issue. I would say for 2 minutes. Is she in the room? Okay, please, go ahead.
Mr. President and dear colleagues, I would like to make a few remarks on the human rights situation in Belarus. As we all know, the situation is far from being acceptable. No fair elections, no freedom of press, no independence on the judiciary. Belarus is the only country in Europe to still carry out executions. The regime of President Lukashenko has achieved total dictatorship during the past 18 years. The isolation of Belarus seems to have grown even deeper after the 2010 presidential elections. The execution of 2 young men who were accused of terrorist attacks in the Minsk metro last March was widely condemned by the European Union and the human rights organizations, and for a good reason. The trial was unfair, the evidence was inconclusive, and these men did not have any right to defend themselves. The European Union has tightened its sanctions against Belarusian leaders and the elite. A visa ban has been widened, and some of the assets have been frozen. Unfortunately, neither the diplomatic dialogue nor the sanctions have been successful methods to improve the poor human rights conditions in Belarus. One of the main roles of us here at the OSCE is to speak openly about these challenges and to make the leaders understand that changes for the better must happen. Let me point out just one more thing. I come from Finland, which is a country of ice hockey. 3 years ago, Belarus was selected to host the 2014 Ice Hockey World Championships. The Hockey Federation, like many of the sports federations, doesn't want to see any relationship between politics and sports. However, I think that in this case it should. I kindly ask you to take a look at paragraph 24 of the draft resolution on Belarus. It recommends that the International Ice Hockey Federation suspends its plan to hold the 2014 International World Hockey Championships in Minsk until the government of Belarus releases all political prisoners. I warmly support this recommendation. It is clear that there are no easy solutions, but we still need to do all we can to reinforce democracy in Belarus. Meanwhile, we would very much welcome an invitation to monitor the upcoming parliamentary elections in Belarus next September.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kauma. And then I shall ask Mr. Tony Lloyd if he wishes to respond to the debate, but maybe not.
I think, Matteo, there's little to respond to, but thank you.
That's the procedure. Thank you very much. So 14 amendments have been tabled to the draft resolution. And as I said, on which issue? Su cosa? Yes. I had asked if avevo chiesto se c'erano... Okay. Just 1 minute for the debate, because, okay. Also in the general debate or on the amendments? General debate, okay. So we have to open again. Please, 1 minute.
Grazie Presidente. Io volevo toccare uno dei punti che è già stato sottolineato anche dalla collega finlandese, che è quello sulla partecipazione, cioè sull'organizzazione dei mondiali di hockey in Bielorussia. Ecco, io su questo punto, e faccio parte anche del gruppo di lavoro sulla Bielorussia, devo dire che sono un po' controverso, perché secondo me forse se vogliamo lavorare per far sì che ci sia la possibilità, che sia data la possibilità ai cittadini bielorussi, visto che si dice di una mancanza di possibilità di avere rapporti con la stampa straniera, con informazioni libere. Se gli si toglie anche questa possibilità di incontrare persone che vengono dall'estero, secondo me si va a fare un qualcosa di negativo. Io penso che bisognerebbe incentivare ogni tipo di rapporto che può mettere in contatto i cittadini bielorussi con i cittadini europei e di altri paesi. E credo che quell'occasione possa essere un'occasione proprio per far modo che nascano rapporti anche personali tra le persone, perché un mondiale porta tifosi, porta un movimento internazionale di persone che si muoveranno verso la Bielorussia, e questo può servire a rompere un po' questo isolamento, soprattutto dei cittadini bielorussi con i cittadini degli altri paesi. Io penso quindi che forse bisognerebbe valutare meglio questa richiesta, perché se noi vogliamo lavorare per una democratizzazione della Bielorussia, dobbiamo anche far sì che i rapporti tra le società di quel paese e la società civile di quel paese e quella di altri paesi, magari che hanno la democrazia ormai compiuta, possano essere rafforzati, e penso che un incontro di persone come questo possa servire proprio andare in quest'ottica. Quindi non sono d'accordo sulla richiesta di non far tenere questo campionato in Bielorussia. Grazie.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Guminski from Belarus. Then I don't know if we have 4 minutes to 11 o'clock, so I don't want to cut your time, but just consider that then we have to close. Thank you.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Уважаемый господин председатель, уважаемые коллеги, мне запомнились вчерашние выступления государственного министра княжества Монако Мишеля Роже и действующего председателя ОБСЕ Эймона Гилмора, которые особо акцентировали важность такой формы работы в решении задач, стоящих перед ОБСЕ, как диалог. Знаю из бесед со многими из вас, что точно такого же мнения придерживаетесь и вы. Да, это сложная форма, требующая много времени, терпения, настойчивости, умения слышать и слушать друг друга, чтобы получить желаемый конечный результат. Что же нам предлагается в очередной раз в отношении государства, которое не так давно встало на путь демократического развития, избрав при этом эволюционный путь? Диктат, давление, ультиматумы, экономические и политические санкции, визовые ограничения. Я хочу спросить, подобная Белградская резолюция принесла свои плоды? Нет. И очередная не принесет. Беларусь – суверенное, независимое государство. И разговаривать с ним с таких позиций – это оскорбление для моего народа. И вы прекрасно знаете, что народ Беларуси этого не заслуживает. Вместе с тем, Беларусь менее всего заинтересована в нагнетании напряженности в отношениях с Западом. Мы члены Европейского дома. Может быть, кто-нибудь может упрекнуть нас в том, что Беларусь вмешивается во внутренние дела других государств, учит кого-то, как ему жить, создает угрозу национальной безопасности или не выполняет свои международные обязательства по вопросам борьбы с терроризмом, торговлей людьми, нелегальной миграцией, наркотрафиком. Разве вы можете сказать, что на наших заседаниях белорусская делегация бездействует? Только что господин Ллойд назвал несколько фамилий, которых мы даже не знаем. Никто не закрывал Хельсинский комитет. Беляцкий осужден за неуплату налогов. И таких, мягко говоря, неточностей в тексте предостаточно. У нас, господин председатель, просто нет времени на все ответить. И еще, стремление автора смешать спорт и политику поистине удивляет. Несмотря на решение Международной федерации хоккея о том, что чемпионат мира по хоккею никуда переноситься не будет, и это ясно абсолютно всем, автор резолюции упрямо пытается взывать к невозможному. Сожалеем. Уважаемые коллеги, ваше право поддержать резолюцию по Беларуси или не поддержать, участвовать в голосовании, либо воздержаться от участия. Но я хотел бы вас просить об одном. Прежде чем вы примете решение, дайте сами себе взвешенный, искренний, человеческий ответ на вышепоставленные мною вопросы. 23 сентября этого года в Республике Беларусь состоятся парламентские выборы. Я хочу сообщить вам, что Беларусь, выполняя взятые на себя международные обязательства, приглашает парламентскую ассамблею и БДИПЧ ОБСЕ для участия в наблюдении за выборами. Уверен, ваше пребывание в моей стране многое расставит на свои места. Еще раз повторяю, что данная резолюция ни в первоначальном виде, ни с предлагаемыми поправками к ней для нас неприемлема. Мы призываем, коллеги, вас голосовать против резолюции, инициированной господином Ллойдом. Данная резолюция разрушает предпосылки для конструктивного и взаимоуважительного диалога. Но разве это отвечает интересам нашей организации, в самом названии которой заложено ключевое слово «сотрудничество»? Благодарю за внимание.
Thank you, Mr. Guminski. One thing is sure that the delegation of Belarus cannot be accused of being inactive in our committee and in our assembly, and that you can be assured that nobody will accuse of that. And before closing, I think we can extend and we can ask our interpreters to be kind with us for a couple of minutes if Tony Lloyd wishes to reply to this debate, and then tomorrow we move to the discussion of the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. I shall try and be very brief. Let me simply say this, that if this is provocation, it's provocation by President Lukashenko and the Belarusian authorities, and provocation not of me, but provocation with respect to the people of Belarus. And if there is insult around, the insult is to what Belarus could be, what Belarus could aspire to be in the family of nations, a country that should be able to give hope to its people, should be able to give a future to its people living in a democratic, stable, progressive country. And that, alas, is not the case. And that's why Belarus is once again on the agenda here. There is a difficult issue always about mixing sport and politics. That's always a very real issue. It's a very difficult equation to come to a conclusion upon. What I would simply say, though, is this, is that there are many circumstances under which I would say yes. I mean, dialogue of all kinds must be a good thing, and with the people of Belarus, it's a good thing. Actually, young people in Belarus are open to the world. They see the world through the internet, through cyberspace, and they know that there is a better future for Belarus than the one that's there. So I'm all in favour of dialogue. But there is no doubt that the awarding of what is a major sporting competition to Belarus is a difficult one, because it gives signals not to the people of Belarus. The people of Belarus are welcome were they allowed to travel all over Europe. The people of Belarus are not the problem. It's the authorities of Belarus who will regard this, the awarding of this championship as something that gives credibility to President Lukashenko and his regime. And that simply is a very difficult signal for us to give. So I would ask colleagues here to think very carefully about ourselves. We cannot command the International Ice Hockey Federation to take any particular action, but to make sure we give a strong signal to the ice hockey authorities that the situation in Belarus is an unacceptable one, and that by holding these finals there, they give the wrong signal to the people of Belarus, and they give the signal to the people of Belarus that we don't care about the repressive regime that operates in Minsk.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. So we now have finished our debate on the, I'm sorry, Mr. Guminski is out of the procedure to reply at this point. You have 14 amendments to point of order. All right, 1 minute.
Yes. Господин председатель, очень благодарю вас. Я хочу ответить господину дорогому Тони Ллойду в отношении того, что кто-то из белорусских спортсменов не может выехать на какие-то соревнования. Это клевета на нашу страну. А вот то, что Великобритания до последнего момента не выдавала визы нашим спортсменам на Олимпийские игры, это имеет место. Поэтому я просто хотел уточнить. Спасибо.
So you have an opportunity to solve these bilateral issues, visa on another occasion. We now close the general debate. Tomorrow we meet at 11:30 and we start with the consideration of the amendments to the draft resolution on Belarus. And so now the meeting is closed and we have a coffee break, well deserved, until 11:30. Thank you.